If you live in the Northeast like I do, you've probably been dealing with all this wildfire smoke from Canada that's just been blanketing the Northeast. It's even been reported as far south as South Carolina. And it's been bad. It's been super eerie going outside in the mornings, and the sky, it was supposed to be a sunny day, and the sky has just been this like orangish red color. Distance that you can see is like a mile in front of you, and it's just super hazy. It looks very eerie and apocalyptic outside. I've been looking at pictures from New York City, and it's like the same thing down there than it is up in upstate New York where I live. And I was like, okay, this is not good. We've been getting a ton of air quality alerts. Don't go outside. Don't breathe in the air. Stay indoors. And I was wondering how good the air quality is actually indoors versus being outside. So a couple of years ago, I purchased some air quality monitors, one for the outside and a couple for the inside. They're from Purple Air and Airthings. And what I did is I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a couple graphs here that show what the difference is. And then we'll get into some more details as far as how I was able to maintain a pretty decent indoor air quality while the outdoor air quality was so poor. And before I actually show you guys my numbers, it's probably really important to understand what the AQI is, the Air Quality Index. This was created by the EPA back in 1971 when they really started monitoring this type of stuff. And the Air Quality Index consists of a couple different things like ground ozone layer, particulate pollution, which is PM 2.5, which is what we're really going to be able to measure from this wildfire smoke here. And basically what they did is they ranked it in different categories. So good air has a value of 0 to 50, moderate 50 to 100, so on and so forth, all the way up to the max scale on this index being 500, which is the maximum, basically like 100% pollution in the air. So that's what we're going to look at when I show you guys my values, and that's how to interpret them. So here is an outdoor air quality sensor, and this is again measuring the US EPA PM 2.5 air quality index. And I started this at Monday night. That's really when we started noticing the sky changing a little bit of color here, and things started to really degrade. So you could take a look here. We weren't too great Monday night here. It did get a little bit better, and then it got a whole lot worse. And you guys can see here, by Tuesday night, the AQI was 230, and then we had our big spikes yesterday, which was Wednesday. That happened around 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we had another pretty big spike around 11:40. Luckily, after that, we started declining a lot, but you can see between 10 o'clock in the morning and really, when we really started getting to the hazardous time, it was 9:30 in the morning, and that lasted all the way until 12:30. We were north of 300 on the AQI index. 385 was the actual peak here before it started getting any better. And even outside right now, we're still looking at readings in the 70s, which isn't bad, but it could be a little bit better. If we show off my indoor air quality sensor here, again, this is from Purple Air. I'll have links in the description if you want to purchase one. Started again monitoring this on Monday night, and you can take a look here that indoor air quality was in the 50s, and we really, any air quality you're breathing, you want under 50. So I needed to get this down. I do have a mechanical ventilation system in my house called an ERV system, which actually brings in fresh air from the outside. Once I saw these levels starting to peak outside really bad, I decided to pull the plug on that thing and not bring in any more contaminated air. It does have filters, but they're only going to do so much. So by doing that, and the overall air quality outside did go down as well, I was able to get back into a more desirable zone here. And then you can take a look over the next couple of days. We did have a couple more spikes into the yellow zone here, 54, 55 there, and then where we had that really eerie morning, Wednesday morning, that's where I had my highest spike here at 87 on the air quality index. I went downstairs. I started changing filters in my furnace. I'll show you guys a picture here of what my old furnace filter looked like. I've got a 4-inch media filter in here that does do a decent job at filtering out PM 2.5. It's got a MERV 12 filter built into it. So I went downstairs to make sure I had a fresh filter in there. And we did start to see a pretty significant drop once I changed that filter out. We still definitely did get another spike here Wednesday afternoon at around 12 o'clock, and really that was the last big spike that we had coming in. The rest of the time, we pretty much stayed in the green zone here, and right now we're sitting pretty right now at 0 on the air quality index scale. So there's, so far right now we're detecting 0 particulate matter inside my house, which is ideally where we want to be. So if you want a very simple answer of, hey, if I shut all my windows in my house and the outdoor air is absolutely horrendous and I turn off my mechanical ventilation, yep, you'll be able to maintain a pretty decent indoor air quality. But on this channel, we like to really dig into these numbers and take a look at a bunch of other factors that are in that. Once I do that and my house is built very tightly, what does that do to CO2 levels? What does that do to all those other things that could be affecting inside my house for poor air quality, things like VOC? So now I'm going to spend some time and we'll go in a little more technical around what else happened to my house. Once we eliminated the fire smoke from outside, what else happened inside my house to contribute to my good or poor indoor air quality? So what happened Monday night after we closed all of our windows and turned the ERV system off? How did that affect other indoor air quality values beyond the PM 2.5 level? Obviously, we did not want to bring in any of that wildfire smoke from the outside, but what did that do now that the house was closed up? And this is off of my Airthings wave sensor here. Link again is in the description if you guys want to look at purchasing one of these. But you could take a look. I shut it off. Again, it was Monday night. It was probably about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I shut it off. And at first, not a whole lot. Everything was still fine. But we did start to see spikes in a couple different areas. So because we were not bringing in any more fresh air, and the outdoor air was not really fresh to begin with at this point, we saw VOC levels inside of the house start to spike up a little bit. Going throughout the day here, we did see, again, radon levels start to go up, again, due to the fact that the house was really closed up. We had no more mechanical ventilation in here. This is really nothing to worry about. I mean, these values are still super, super low. VOC levels, you're going to get spikes here and there, too. Some of this could have been due to us cooking and not using ventilation fans in the kitchen or in the bathroom anymore, just because, again, we didn't want to start sucking in outdoor air from the outside, so this could have been from cooking. We did get a pretty decent sized spike on Tuesday in the VOC level there, but again, that leveled out pretty smoothly. The other thing that had a steady rise here is CO2 levels. So because we're not bringing in any fresh outdoor air, CO2 levels inside the house started getting up into the yellow zone here. Nothing super much to worry about here. Really you want to stay under 1,000. Under 500 is really good. But we did get a little bit of a spike there on Wednesday. Again, that was pretty much the worst day with everything really closed up inside the house. So, yep, while we eliminated all that PM 2.5 coming in from inside the house, we did have a couple more spikes in VOC, and CO2 was probably the biggest thing that rose on this list. So I showed you guys what the outside air looked like, and I showed you guys what the inside air looked like after we shut everything and turned the ERV system off. But it's probably really important to note here, what are the variables of my house? Because your house is going to be different. No one's house is built exactly the same. So it's probably important to understand what my house is for me to get those indoor air quality numbers versus what your house might be. And the first thing that we need to talk about is how leaky your house is, or how leaky my house is. And what that means is how much air, when everything is shut down, how much air from the outside is still penetrating my building and coming in. And that's referred to as your ACH 50 number, or air changes per hour. So the way you get that score is by doing something called a blower door test. You put this big fan in, you shut everything off in the house, close all your windows, everything. You put this big fan in your front door, and then you depressurize the house, and we simulate basically a 20 mile an hour wind blowing onto your house from all sides. And basically what that does is it gives us that ACH 50 number. We can take a look at how many air changes per hour at that 20 mile an hour wind coming at the house. My number is ACH 50 of 1.5. Now, the International Building Code Association, I can again provide links to this in the description of the video. they say that anything under 5 requires mechanical ventilation. That is why I actually have an ERV system, because my house is fairly tight. Standards are always changing. Things are getting a lot tighter. In a year, the code could be, even tighter that these houses need to build. And it's generally a good idea for any new building, and you'll start to see this. There's all those zip systems out there that really try to enclose the envelope of your house. But you want to have, it's a really good idea to have a very tight house, because then you could bring in that mechanical ventilation from a clean air source on the outside. And what do I mean by that? When your house is really leaky, you can't control where the air is coming in from whatsoever. So if it is a bad air day outside, you just have air filtering in from all over the place. Or maybe it's a good air day, but your house is leaky and we're sucking in air and it's just blowing through insulation and coming into your house. Not really the ideal situation. So what we can do is, if the house is built really tight, we can have dedicated ports on the outside of the house, and we can bring in fresh air from a good known area, and we can filter that fresh air too. So I've got a Zehnder ERV system here, and I've got a charcoal filter on it, and then I've also got a MERV 13 filter on my Zehnder ERV system. So I'm bringing in fresh air from a known good side of the house, not next to where my cars are, not next to exhaust from my furnace or anything like that, a known good area of the house where I can get fresh air in, and I am exhausting out probably about 15, 20 feet away, because I don't want to mix those. So that's what I'm doing here. So again, my ACH 50 number is a 1.5. So if your ACH 50 number is 1.5, then yeah, you could probably expect similar results. Or if you've got a lower ACH 50 number than I do, then maybe your indoor air quality from a particular matter standpoint would actually be better than mine inside. But the trade-off of that is going to be your CO2 levels, your VOC levels, and potentially your radon levels. So just keep that in mind. That's why it's important, if you're really going to get into this stuff, to have these sensors so you can see what the heck is going on inside of your house. The other thing I do want to mention here too is I did change that air filter. In my furnace, I've got that 4-inch media filter. And one thing that I always do is I run my fan in my furnace 24/7. A lot of people will only run the fan in their furnace when there's a call for heat or a call for cooling. The fan turns on, blows the heat inside the house, and then everything shuts down. I use my furnace like a big filter for the house. Definitely had that thing working as hard as I could get it to go with the air quality outside, because I just wanted to keep filtering, and I think it did a pretty decent job. So I know that was a lot. If you guys have any questions, please post down below in the comments, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks again for watching.